I'm Karen Yankovich, and this is the Good Girls Get Rich podcast. I am so excited for this conversation today. It's something I have been wanting to do for a while. And when I met today's guest, at the back of my mind, I was like, I wonder if we can make this happen for this show. And here we are. We made this happen. So I've got Candy Barone with us today. And Candy is, among other things, I'm going to give you her bio in a second. Among other things, she is she infuses human design into a lot of the work that she does. And I am a human design projector. So I don't know how much you know about human design, but projectors are supposed to wait for the invitation. And my business is helping people with lead gen. So how do you do lead gen without asking for the sale, right? So it's been something I have been thinking about and wanting to do more talking about. And I'm going to bring Candy. I'm not going to tell you too much now, but that's what this episode is going to be about. How do we do this? And I don't really see anybody talking about this, so I'm excited to do this today. So let me bring Candy here. Candy, I'm so excited to have you here. Candy Barone is the CEO of You Empowered Strong, is a leadership development expert, a trainer, a guide, and executive coach. She's an international speaker, amazing best-selling author, and host of the Aligned as Fuck podcast. She is catalyst and change agent who works with executives and emerging leaders to help bring heart back to leadership while feeding the soul of their business. With nearly 20 years in corporate, combined with a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering, certification as a Six Sigma black belt and an MBA, she's a master at building exceptional, high-performing teams, maximizing and leveraging ROI, growing emerging leaders, creating metrics for greater accountability, and catapulting individuals to achieve explosive growth. Candy's a tree shaker and helps people get aligned so that they can remember who they are and how to step into their leadership, reclaim their personal power, and step into the fullness of their gifts. She brings in tools like human design and gene keys to connect people back into their energetic blueprint and individual wiring. Candy believes that leadership is a choice and everyone's opportunity, and it all starts with how we choose to lead ourselves first. I can go on and on. We're going to put more of this in the show notes, but Candy, I'm so excited to have you here today.
Oh, it is my honor. I am so excited to play with you in this space. And yes, let's please stop going through the bio and just jump in.
Yeah. No, I get it. No, but I wanted to get to the human design piece of it. So, so you heard me in the intro that I am, it's interesting. I always have interest in this stuff, right? I was the kid I remember in middle school, to walk home from middle school. So what's that, 7th grade? You're at 12 or something? Walking home from school, I had to walk past the library. And I can tell you exactly right now where the section in the Bergenfield, New Jersey library was that had all the books about astrology and palm reading. I was always sitting on the floor in this little corner, reading those books as young as whatever 7th and 8th grade is. And I know it's 7th and 8th grade because that's when I had to walk past the library, right? So I have had an interest in all of these things for so long. And then recently, human design pops into my life, right? And I'm like, what is this? Where did this come from? Because as I said, I love this stuff from the time I was a little kid. But also, I was like, what is this? Is this something new? So I've been kind of playing with it and learning a little bit about it. I'm a little skeptical about it because I was like, where has this been? What is this? How did this come out of nowhere? And then you and I met through the Dames, which you guys, I've interviewed a couple people on the show from the Dames. I'm not really sure what order these interviews are coming out. So maybe you haven't heard that before, but it's a great organization for networking, meeting other women. If you go to KarenYankovich.com/tools, you'll see a link there where you can check out a free roundtable for the Dames. You totally should do that because I've met some great people. But I met Candy and I learned that she has this expertise in human design and business. And I asked her the question that I have been asking a million people: what the heck do I do if my human design is a projector and I'm supposed to wait for the opportunities, but lead gen is what I do and what I teach? So that's where we're starting this conversation, Candy.
I love it. And yes, I have your chart because we're going to reference some things as we go through. You being skeptical about something that feels very kind of new agey, a little woo-woo to some people on this whole where did human design come from? It really was a download process for Ra Urahu, who was the original founder of human design. It was a system that downloaded over a period of 8 days. And like other things if you look over the course of history and other things, it's how many things have come. They've come in various capacities where there's been a knowing or a download, or there's been a vision, or there's been whatever it might be. And what's interesting is, because I know when I first stumbled upon human design, I had a different kind of skepticism. I was more like, really, I don't need another woo-woo tool in my arsenal. And then it occurred to me, because I'm a mechanical engineer by background, right? You said that. And it's energy, which means it's physics, which means there's actually some governing laws inside of what human design can show us. And one of the things, and I think for your skeptical brain with having that defined head in ajna, and looking at it from a projector, is we look at, well, how is this functional? How is this practical? What am I supposed to do with this? Especially when my work is in lead gen, and I keep being told I need to be recognized and wait for the invitation. And there's this actually really beautiful dance that we can sort of unpack together in that, because one of the things is maybe changing the lens. And I think, you know this, but everybody out there doesn't. I do a lot of work with projectors. I actually am a manifesting generator. I have a lot of energy, a lot of power, a lot of stuff in my chart, very defined. But I have felt very called to work with projectors to help them step into their leadership in a different way, because I have seen and come to believe that there are a lot of myths or misperceptions when it comes to the strategy and authority and the way projectors show up in this world. And I feel very compelled to break some of that down and dispel that. And the first one being that waiting for the invitation doesn't mean you're sitting around waiting for someone to actually like hand you an invitation and invite you in. Right. It is a function of you becoming so magnetic, a lead gen strategy right there, but you becoming so magnetic that you actually become the invitation. And while you're waiting for big, juicy invitations in your day-to-day life, you don't necessarily need those invitations. What you need is people that recognize your value and seek you out to share that wisdom and counsel. And I can't think of anything that's more aligned for a congruent, healthy, more serving, well-balanced way to create lead gen than to understand that it's about you becoming a magnetic lighthouse and attracting and calling to you those that feel, seek, taste the magic, the power that is the projector energy, and are seeking out the counsel and wisdom because they somehow inherently know that you see things they can never see, and they just feel this draw to then say, hey, Karen, I think I need to work with you. Here's the invitation. And it becomes this very organic dance rather than something that's been the old way of lead gen, which is I gotta hustle and I gotta go like build my list and I gotta do all the things. And it's like, you actually know you need to work on you to create the energetics to draw the right things in.
Love that. So just so you listeners know, Candy did a reading on my chart a week ago or 2 weeks ago, so that when we came to here, we could talk about it. Because I, like I said to you earlier, I came with it. I wasn't really skeptical about another new agey thing. I was skeptical in like, where has this been? It just dropped out of the sky. So I didn't have skepticism around it being new agey. I had more skepticism around what is this thing? Is this whatever? However, when we did that reading, more than any astrological reading or any mediumship reading or any of the billion different kinds of readings I've had in my life over the decades I've been here, I have never had a reading that I was like, oh, I can point to things I was doing along that 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago, like many, many years ago, right? So more than any reading I've ever had, I could relate to it. And not just in the, yeah, I probably would do that. In the, oh, I specifically did that thing in 1995. You know what I mean? And it was really interesting to me. And part of the conversation that we had, as we talked about what we were going to talk about here today, was, were we going to talk about human design in general? Or were we going to talk about human design for projectors? And Candy was the one that kind of said to me, no, Karen, you need to do this for you and all the other projectors out there. So we're going to talk about human design for projectors. So if you are a projector, you totally want to listen. And if you're not, you definitely still want to listen in, because there's a lot of things that we're going to be able to talk about that will help you understand all of this. Because here's the thing, at the heart of it, I have been talking about magnetic marketing for years. And maybe you're experiencing this too, but I know in my business and in many of the people I speak to, their businesses, and Candy mentioned it a few minutes ago, what worked 5 years ago doesn't work anymore. I spent six figures, hefty six figures in learning like webinar marketing, Facebook ads to webinars, like click to client in 24 hours kind of thing. And it worked really well 5 years ago. It doesn't work anymore at all, at least not in my world and in many of the things we did. So I have been shifting my own marketing and teaching, because what I teach is not that click to client webinar stuff. I learned that, and that's one funnel of where I was getting clients from. But where I was still always getting clients from was the LinkedIn and PR strategies, which is a magnetic profile using keywords. If you go back to episode 5 or 10 of this podcast, you'll hear me talking about that 5 or 6 years ago, right? And having this magnetic approach, being featured in newspapers and magazines so that people see you and they see that credibility and they come to you looking for what it is that you do. So this is it baked in to everything that I teach. And then I have this reading with Candy where she explains why that makes so much sense, right? So it's just so interesting to me.
Well, and that's the thing. A lot of people, I think, to step back for a minute, people think or teach human design as a function of this is who you are. And this is some kind of construct or another label or another. And none of that is true. It is not who or what you are. It is an operating system that literally maps out how you are, which means what energy do you have consistent access to and what energy are you taking in or borrowing from others and amplifying around you. Inside of that, we all have a DNA coding or an innate wiring that is ours. That is the various pieces depending on what's open and defined in your chart and how you use that energy. Inside that coding, there lives a language. And one of the most beautiful things that I have seen for projectors, especially for someone like you who has that undefined throat, who sometimes struggles with where's my language for how I want to express myself and when and what does that look like? There's language you can extract from your own coding that also becomes an amplifier in terms of that magnetic field you are creating. And when you step into, that feels so confirming or validating. And the biggest thing I've heard from people, especially projectors, wow, I feel for the first time really seen. And that just validated all the magical unicornness of who I was, that I didn't fit in some kind of because here's the reality. And I say this with a lot of compassion. And it's one of the reasons I feel so compelled to work with projectors. Our world was never designed for projectors. Projectors are the youngest type in the 5 types. They have only been on the planet the last 250 years when we moved and mutated from being a 7-centered being, when we look at our chakras, into a 9-centered being. The energy of the projector was really birthed at that time. And so it's a newer energy because it's here to guide us into our next level of consciousness and help us shift evolution. And there's a wisdom and guidance the projectors are bringing that all of the other 4 types cannot see. They cannot see, especially the generators. We can't see it. So we need this projector leadership. And it really is a leadership energy to be healthy and really connected into your own sense of self-worth. However, you've been brought into a world that is not designed for you. So there's this whole idea of projectors trying to live in a generator world. And I always feel like I hear the Madonna song, living in a generator world. Anyway, we have this world that's not designed for you. And so it's only when we can bring people back to remembering, because it's really, human design doesn't give you anything you don't already have. It's basically just giving you the operating plan or the playbook or the instructions on how your prototype of a vehicle. Do you need gas? Do you need electric? Are you a hybrid? How do you operate? All human design does is remind you and bring you back to that validation of, oh, that feels so much more like how I operate. That feels like my natural way of being. And remembering that there's always a spectrum, right? There's the high vibration of how we operate, and then there's the low vibration of how we operate. And when you can understand that, you then learn how to make decisions that feel more aligned. You learn how then you work, rest, and play best. You learn how you set up your optimal nutrition and wellness to actually nourish and feed your body, how you, like all of those things, how you interact. That then becomes the function of where you can tap into your natural superpowers and your gifts and the magnetics and the things. But we got to remember how to get back to that wiring, that coding that says you're in the world right now for this reason, and this is how you best operate in that knowing.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And I did not ask you this before, so I'll ask you this now. If somebody's listening and they don't know their human design type, what is the best way for them to find that out? Is that something you help them with, or is there a site we can link below that they can do that? Like, you tell me how you want to, what works for you.
Yeah, both. So I will tell you, there's lots of ways. First of all,
because I would imagine, we're going to get to the end and talk about how you can learn more about Candy, but there's probably people, maybe the projectors out there are going, I want to know right now.
If you've not accessed your chart, to get just your chart, you can get that for free. And you can get that for free in a lot of different ways. If you want to get it free off, you can go to my website, candybarone.com, barely scroll down, and there's a link right there that says access your free chart. Okay, all you need is your time of birth, date of birth, and location of birth. And if you don't know the time, you need it as close as possible to that time to actually run a chart that is the right chart for you. I will say, if you go on my website and do that, you also have the option to download a free PDF summary that pulls out some understanding for you, so that because when you look at your chart, it looks like this, and there's a lot, and it can be overwhelming.
Right.
A lot of people, myself included, will give you an opportunity to get some basic understanding of what some of that means. Now, you always have the option to say, okay, I really want to understand this. Then you set up a reading with somebody. And if you don't know your birth time, I would say run it as close as what you can. Then find somebody who can do a birth range chart for you and help you muscle test which time really feels best for you based on what because there can be up to 5 or 6 variations in a day of and sometimes it's significant. You can go from being a projector to a Manny Gen in a couple of hours in a time in a day. So the more you know the exact time, the better. If not, there's ways you can get somebody that's trained to move through that to help you figure out how to land on a time that feels more.
Well, it's interesting. And I think I popped this into a conversation that you were having with somebody on Facebook. I was born in Jersey City, New Jersey, and apparently there was some identity theft thing that went on in Jersey City. My original birth certificate did not have the time on it, but I knew the time because my mom had told me the time, right?
Yep.
But I had to, the requirement was original birth certificates were no longer going to be valid if they came from Jersey City. You had to go to the state of New Jersey to get a new one. When I went to the state of New Jersey to get a new one, it had the time, it had all that on there. So I'm saying that because if you don't know the time, it may be that if you go to your state or your county that you were born, they may have a more detailed birth certificate than the one you have in your hands, So anyway, I say that to say you might be able to find that out without.
Not every state puts the time on there. Texas has the time on theirs. Not every state puts the time, which I find weird. And that being said, there still could be records of it because everything has to be documented. In order for you to be, especially in the US, in order for you to be a citizen, there has to be a documentation that has your time, date, and location of where you were born in order for you to actually fit the requirements of you being born in, right? So there's a record somewhere. If not, like I said, if for whatever reason you can't, if your mom's like, I think it was kind of in the morning sometimes, great. We start with the general time. And then what we would do is run a birth range chart or a time range and really hone in on, is it this or this? And if it's close enough, we can play with that and still pull out some of the fundamental pieces that'll help you understand the nuances of your own energy, for sure.
Awesome. Cool. So hopefully by now you at least have a sense of where you can get your chart if you don't know that, but we're still focusing on the projectors here in this episode. That being said, I also think people that are not projectors are listening going, well, I want magnetic marketing, right? Like, it doesn't mean you don't have to be a projector to want magnetic marketing, right? Or how do you, and I'm not asking you this question, but they, in my mind, I think, how do I use this magnetic marketing, which I basically I'm really calling it now, it's our empowerment era marketing.
Mhm.
Like, we have to show up differently. We have to show up being worthy of people's investment of time and money. So how do we, so whether you're a projector or not, that kind of marketing is important,
Yep.
because marketing has changed. Like we started talking about a little earlier, it has changed. The things that used to work are not working, but what is working is people are, and maybe this is kind of new era stuff that you're dealing with, Candy, but or that we've moved into in the past couple of years, but people want more know, like, and trust. They're hesitant more in investing. Nobody wants a hard drive full of training anymore. They want to know, they want more confidence that their investment is going to produce results.
Yes.
And of course we always say that, right? We always think that, but now more than ever, it's important that I feel it's important that we look worthy of people's time and investment. So even if we're magnetizing them to us, we still have to look worthy of their time and investment. So tell me what you're seeing in general about this, and why you decided to build human design in to the business planning work that you're doing with the people you work with.
Yeah. So I love this because I think even though we're talking about projectors today, anyone that's not a projector, this part in particular is really important. And there is a reason why we're focusing on projectors, because they really are the guides that are going to move us into this energy that is coming. So first and foremost, everything has a human design. It could be an idea, it could be your business, it could be the world itself. And so one of the things I've started to do is anytime I get a really big idea is I write down the time. Where am I at, and the location, because I can run a chart to see the energy of what is happening that has inspired that. I've run a chart for my business. The reason I say that is because I think we need to take a step back for a second to address what you're just asking. Okay. What is going on collectively in the world right now that is really pushing us in a new direction? So first of all, every 400 years, we go through these cycles in evolution. And so we are right now, and the pandemic, I truly believe, served a point of this. Is why marketing isn't the same as it was 4 or 5 years ago. Because what's happening is we are closing out a 400-year cycle of where we have been in, and from a human design lens, we've been in this energy that's known as cross of planning, which has been this very we energy, very governance. It's where the Industrial Revolution came out. It was a lot of how do we push and get more work out of, and we systematize and create processes that are going to allow us to like accomplish more, run through. And it was all about output and turnover and turn through or push through, right? It's all about making things more efficient, effective, and literally creating processes and systems to create more output. That is the energy we're in right now. It's a very honestly imbalanced masculine energy. It is a we governance, and it's a lot of everybody looking the same, because it was where that whole industrialized revolution came in that said, how do we just get all these people in like an assembly line and just crank out stuff and all the stuff. That served a point, and we're noticing right now that a lot of those same systems are starting to implode. It happened through the pandemic, how we work, how we look at money, how we look at government, how we look at our schools, how we look at business, marketing, sales. Yep. So everything is pushing because they're starting to implode, because what's happening is over the next 2.5 years, we are moving into a very different energy globally. Okay. That energy is moving us into what's called cross of the sleeping phoenix. So imagine a phoenix is about to rise, which means we got to burn some shit down in order for the phoenix to rise. Now, this energy we're moving in, it's February 2027. Now, it's not like all of a sudden a switch goes off, but it is where that energy starts to really anchor in. And now we're moving into a brand new cycle of energy. This energy is a very, if we choose, because again, we have the power of choice throughout this, and it's why you even see what's going on politically right now. We have the choice to move into a very delicious, divine, feminine energy that starts to say leadership, power, success is a more individualized energy.
Oh my God, I love this.
That we move away from when I take care of you, I can take care of me, or when I take care of me, I can take care of you. And we have all these definitions about power and success and leadership. We start to disrupt all that, which is all in my chart. I'm here to disrupt power and leadership all day long. And our beautiful projectors are here to redefine success from a place of well-being and a place of impact, not investment and money and all these material things that we've been caught up in this current energy. We move into Cross of the Sleeping Phoenix, which becomes this very individual, divine, feminine energy that says, and I want you to really let this settle because this is a very different way to approach the world. It's not even moving into, well, when I take care of me and put me first, I can take care of other people. No, it's when I take care of me, stop. All is taken care of. When we learn to lead ourselves, it becomes one of the principles in the Tao that says there is no need for governance when I learn to govern myself. So we move into this very beautiful, now here's where we're going to go awry. If the generators and even the manifestors who have been running the world in the current hustle, wind and grind, burn and churn, all the stuff, if we keep thinking, oh my God, we're just going to push it harder, it is the definition of insanity. It is not the generators who are going to get us to this next evolution and this next level of consciousness, because we can't do the same thing we've been doing and try to get a different result.
We are seeing that. We are seeing that happen. And more than I have ever seen in all of my years of marketing and working, more and more people are just abandoning their businesses and doing other things because they don't know what to do. Because they keep trying to do what they've always done.
Right. And the projectors come in. And this is why, whether you're a projector listening or whether you're a generator or a manifestor listening, the manifestors, manifesting generators, and generators need to learn how to ask and invite the projector wisdom in. And the projectors need to get themselves healthy in their own sense of self-worth and get to a place where they are sufficiently and sustainably resourced so that they can then move into that role as the rising phoenix. I call my projectors witches because they are the warriors igniting transformational change and healing, and they are the oracles. They have the freaking crystal ball that shows us how the pieces need to be rearranged, yet they need to be in an energy that feels like an invitation. So here's the thing. They don't need to be invited to the table. They need to freaking create the damn table and be the invitation at the table itself. But it's the projector leadership that is aligned with that cross of the sleeping phoenix. That is that very delicious individual, divine, feminine energy that is going to guide us into our next level of evolution. And we have 2.5 years right now to get everybody ready. And so that's why I bring human design.
Or what? Or what? I want to hear when you say we have 2.5 years to get everybody ready.
We're going to see more. I'm going to tell you right now, you think we're hitting rock bottom right now. And I think it's interesting. And this is my belief. People can tell me I'm crazy. That's fine. People tell me I'm batshit crazy all the time. I'm going to have that in my eulogy when I pass. Candy Barone.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Who cares? Yeah.
It's fine. Here's what is going to happen and what is happening. I find it personally interesting that people are so fearful of some kind of apocalypse, zombie apocalypse that's going to come and take us over. I have a news flash and wake up call for most of us that are in society right now. We are freaking living a zombie apocalypse right now. We are checked out. We are comatose and we are not living our truth, which means systems are further imploding, which many of them need to, but our mental health is at risk. Suicide rates are up. All of that is not by accident. Our health as a collective culture is disintegrating. And we don't need to worry about a zombie apocalypse taking us out. We will take ourselves out. We will not be able to function and we will literally not exist.
Wow. Well, that's on that happy note.
Our ability, because we are at a critical crossroads. And if you look at history,
I hear that.
And you look at every 400 years, there was a choice. And so I believe we don't need everybody. We need the tipping point. We need the Care Bears to come together and create the Care Bear stare. We need the right people to recognize now's the time. And here's the reason why people feel deeply exhausted right now. Whether we like it or not, the universe is upgrading. There is a lot of light codes being downloaded right now. It's why we are so effing tired, because our 3D body can't keep up with it. You know how our 3D body can keep up with it? When we understand our operating, our innate wiring, our coding, and we can align ourselves and start to tell a more empowered, enlightened, and expansive story about ourselves and humanity, we then become vessels that can hold the light instead of getting freaking knocked out, taken out, and because it's either going to take us out or it's going to lift us up. And that's our choice.
Right.
I choose to be lifted up.
Well, that's what I want to get to. I want to get to the choice we have as we move through the next however many years, right? Because I think about even just me, right? Because you've got my chart in front of you. I think about me, and you say things like, and you need to just take care of you, full stop. I got 4 kids. I got 5 grandkids. I got elderly parents. I got a business to run. I got people that work for me. I've got clients. I don't know how to do that. I've never done that in my life. Right. And I can't even process that, but I hear it. And I also recognize that it's probably true. Right. I recognize the truth in it because it is what I have been doing. I don't think it's really been serving all of those people as well as it can, because there has been a lot of discourse in a lot of these different places, right? And I have found, again, just speaking personally, that when I step out of the drama and just say, what do I need here? And not kind of full stop there, that's where things change. That's where I start to see change in those relationships. So if somebody's listening, hopefully they are open to, okay, now they're thinking, all right, well, WTF, right?
For sure, right?
So what do you say to that?
Well, yes. And I mean, human design. So here's the thing. The original human design that downloaded through Ra was literally here to be a trigger to show us where we're in our not self, where we're out of alignment. It literally is to poke the bear. Then there's Gene Keys, which is more the divine feminine that actually shares the language and the coding inside the wiring itself. And then there's quantum human design, which now creates higher vibration language that allows us to recreate a new story. All that still creates the what the WTF in a space that says, oh my God, Candy, I hear you. And yes, I can feel that on some level, on a cellular level. I feel the truth to that. And I have all these responsibilities and all these things. And so I love that you just put that out there, because that being said, so first of all, human design is not a black and white. This is it. And it's not a cause for more shooting all over yourself. It is. I really want to stress that. It is not something to figure out. And it is not something that says, oh my God, you're wrong or you're right. That's absolute bullshit. It's just BS 100%. So when we look at human design, it is first of all, human design meets us where we're at. It is the endless peeling back of an onion that we get to sit with what resonates with us at a certain point. We all have a soul curriculum we are here to live out that is creating opportunities for us to bump up against things. There's natural juxtaposition and duality that says, while we as humans think we're separate, we are going to feel this duality in our own lives as well, which is I feel this, I see this, and I sense this, and oh my God, then there's my life. So we have a life purpose and we have a soul purpose. That being said, you still got to do things to provide for your family and put things on the table. And it's where can I allow that resonance to say, if there's truth to that, how might I, and I'll use the language of a projector, which is not yes, no, or very binary. It's very open-ended in the how, where. So I would say, first I would say, where do I feel like my resources are depleted? So as a projector, your sufficiency of resources and sustainability is everything. We also, this year, right now in 2024, we are moving out of this willpower, push, force, use all my resources, exhaust things out into a more alignment around integrity. And projectors, a lot of what you are here to help us redefine is integrity, success from a place of well-being, my own well-being, and what I'm putting into the world. So the first question for most projectors I work with is, where do I feel a depletion of resources? So when you identify that, then it's how can I start to replenish those resources? Because here's the thing, if you don't, two things are going to happen if you don't find a way to replenish. You can't give people anything. You cannot give people what you don't have to give. That's just a fundamental law. So if you're at a 6 on a scale of 1 to 10, the best you can give is about a 5. Otherwise, you're flat down on the ground and you're not moving because you've just tapped out. You can only give what you have to give. So if you're not replenished, you're giving other people aspects of you, the pieces that don't feel whole, the not the brilliance and the magnetics and the energy that could be so life-changing and impactful. The other thing is you then aren't ready for the big invitations when they come by. You can't say yes to the right invitations for you if you don't have the resources and the energy to do what's required of that. And then the third piece that comes out of that is it creates this bitterness, which is the projector not self, which then creates this repelling energy that pushes everything off of you. So it's not about doing 0 to 100. It's about, and I really love James Clear's Atomic Habits. How do I create 1%? How or where could I replenish 1% today? How can I replenish 1% tomorrow? And over a course of a year, you've now replenished 37% more than what you had before. And what happens naturally for a projector is when you allow yourself to answer those questions, it actually becomes an exponential compound quantum effect that 1 becomes 10, becomes 100. Then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I now know and feel. So I can't just, oh my God, just take care of me and like have everything else to go to hell in a handbasket, right? It's yes and. And so one of the biggest things I think human design gives us, if we're open to it, because again, there's that duality between our life purpose and our soul purpose, is to stop thinking everything is either or, black or white, and to start learning how to dance in the and, all, and both. And when we can find our own harmony between our responsibilities as parents, grandparents, as daughters, sons, whatever elderly parents, we're living in this time, and do it in a way that creates interdependent relationships, not codependent. Human design shows us a lot of pathways where codependency takes over. We can create interdependency versus codependency, and we can start to merge and create harmony in all of it, so that then we start to recognize, where do I need to be sufficiently resourced and where am I tapping out? Does that make sense?
It does make sense. It does make sense. And it's a great place to start. And it feels a little bit more, listen, here's the deal. It sounds scary when you say we're living in an apocalypse, but it sounds amazing when you say, and all we need to do is to stop and lean in, maybe not lean in. I don't even know if that's the right word, but to
lean in, go within your own body.
Right. Like just to be aligned and stop pushing and stop working so hard and stop doing all the things, which is really hard for people like me to even comprehend. When people say, here's how you have success, Karen, do less. Like, what?
Well, and that's not correct. That actually isn't correct for you. Because
you tell me what that means.
You look at your chart, you have 3 of the 4 motor centers, which means you don't operate like a traditional projector either. You have a lot of power and work energy in your chart that for someone to just simply say to you as a projector, Karen, you need to slow down. That's not even going to feel aligned, because you actually need to be in some kind of motion. It's just, you need to remember you're not a generator. So you don't turn on a switch every day and work in a cadence that looks the same every day and burning yourself out physically and mentally every single day, and then turn the switch off and go to sleep. You don't operate like that, but you do have the 3 backup batteries and the other 3 motor centers with a defined will, defined solar plexus, and defined root that says when the right invitation comes in and you are sufficiently resourced, you can get more work done than 20 generators times 10. It's the right work. It's happening in blast, and it's really big power when it comes.
Interesting.
And you likely need to work out and play sports and do some things that physically move some excess energy out of your body, because otherwise you get sucked into the shoulding and shaming that says, oh, well, I guess I can, so I should act like a generator. And just because you can does not mean you should.
I need to have that on my wall. I need to have that on my wall. I'm going to get one of those, like, I'd probably go to Etsy and get somebody to create something that I could put on my wall, like above my computer.
That's a huge message for you, especially with that defined will, because when it's not aligned, you can tap into sheer willpower, which is the fastest way for you in your design to deplete your resources.
So, it's so interesting, because that's one of the reasons why this is so unbelievably fascinating to me, because in all of the things I've ever done, all of the readings I've ever had, all of the things, there's never been stuff I'm like, oh God, yes. Like this, it feels like I can feel in my soul that these are the right answers for me. Right. And it's so interesting. And I've had, like, I remember one time I have a cousin who's I don't know, maybe 10 years older than me, maybe. And like, we were having some conversation and he's like, are you like, I can't remember what it is though. Like, are you Scorpio rising? I'm like, I don't know. Am I? Like, cause I didn't know my rising sign at the time. Right. And I looked, I'm like, I am. How did you know that? Do you know what I mean? Like, how did you know that? And he was like, but I say that to say, like, so it's not like I've never seen like alignment in who I am and how in other things, but never to the point of where it makes me feel like Scorpio rising was like, yeah, so I'm a pain in the ass and I'm hard on things. And I like, like that doesn't make me feel like, what do I do with that? Right. Okay.
Or
Okay,
if I may offer you, so
right.
Karen, if I may offer you, here's an example of rewriting the narrative.
Okay.
There is a part that says, oh, I'm a Scorpio rising, which means I'm hard, I'm a pain in the butt, I'm stubborn, I'm like, blah. Or it could be, I have really big penetrating energy and I have a point of view. And when I talk about my magnetics, it's me dialing in, because when I run like a success codex or look at people's success map, that energy comes through to say, this is the area that when I recognize the other side of that, the higher vibration, that Scorpio energy is extremely penetrating. So you as a projector dialing into that Scorpio energy, when you want to really pull out the potential for somebody who knows you're bringing value, you are magical. That is like a gift. So you can say, oh, I'm stubborn and I'm hard and I'm this and I'm whatever, which feels like that doesn't feel as magnetizing as when you say, when I'm aligned, I can penetrate into the deepest level of potential and pull that through for the people that I'm around. And it's a spark and it feels intense and people are like, whoa, and it cracks them wide open. I personally prefer the other side of the conversation and changing the narrative that feels much more empowering.
Yes. And that's exactly it. That's exactly it. I don't need something like, I don't need you to be a psychic and tell me that I'm wearing a black shirt. I already know I'm wearing a black shirt. Right. Right. So, and I'm not saying that there's no reasons that that's not a value somewhere in my life. But what I love about what you do and how you look at human design is, here's what's happening. Here's what's getting in your way. So stop doing that. Yeah. And here's the things like if you just align a little bit over here instead of a little bit over there, here's what can change. So I can do this for 2 more hours, and we can't do this for 2 more hours. We probably could, but we probably shouldn't.
I can do this for like 2 more days.
I know. So let's start with this. If you are not a projector and you are listening to this today, tell whoever's listening that's not a projector what their next steps might want to be as they move into the energies of this next year or months or 5 years or 2 years. And then I'm going to ask you the same question after that for projectors. So let's start with the not.
So I'm going to actually do this in 3 ways. One, I'm going to offer a thought for those of you that are sacrally defined. So you're either generators or manifesting generators, because I'm going to ask you a question. Did you feel a resonance, even though we were trying to talk more about projectors? Did you feel a resonance on some level? Because I want to ask you a yes, no question as a sacral, because I want you to get into a space to feel your response. So did you get a response? Did something show up for you in this call? And do you naturally know what's next for you to explore more? So that's the question I would leave for a generator or manifesting generator. Manifestors, I'm simply going to say, we would love to hear your thoughts on the ideas of human design and how you might see it applying in your life. So it's not really a question for a manifestor. It's more of, I want to know their thoughts and I just kind of want to understand, like, what do you think? Mm-hmm. Projectors and reflectors. I will say the question then is, where are you feeling the deepest resonance around what we talked about today? And how might you take the next step that will allow you to explore further into your own energetics and design? And while sounds like I just said the same thing 3 times, each one of those was activated differently because each of us has a different language depending on what type we are.
Okay, cool. All right. Now for us projectors, give us some bottom line this for us.
Yeah. So first and foremost, the recognition, I'm going to emphasize this again. I see you, and there are others that see that this world was not created for you. And being a projector can be extremely complex and challenging at times. And all of what you're feeling, including the exhaustion, the bitterness, the emotionality, the empath, is absolutely perfectly normal, whatever the hell that word means. There is nothing wrong with you. There's nothing broken. There is nothing missing. You are here to be a unicorn and to be 20% of the population that is going to guide us into the next, which means one of the biggest things I can leave you with is that question: where currently do you feel you are depleted in your own resources? And resources can be time, money, energy, food, nutrition, wellness. You decide. But where, so the three questions: where are you feeling resource depleted? And then the secondary to that is how can you start to replenish? Where are you feeling bitterness or deep-seated resentment that has an opportunity to be cleared, and how can you start to clear that? And the third one then really is around, and where's my question going with that? Oh, it escaped me. My third one for projectors is, where do you need to give yourself permission to be more visible?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a really
Because
good
a lot of projectors are tapping out and hiding because they feel people don't see them and are recognizing them, when that's the opposite of what's needed right now. And the only way you become magnetic is to live and speak from your truth. So on your socials, you don't need an invitation. Speak your truth. Let yourself be visible. Talk about your experiences. And depending on what's in your chart, there's specific ways you can do that is more aligned. That being said, where and how can you be more visible?
So I'm going to tell you something now that I'm just going to tell you that's listening that Candy did not know this before this conversation. I yesterday decided that I wanted to create a new free training that I could use kind of like a lead magnet for the people that understand business, to bring people to my thing. Literally called, and you can get this at, because I bought the domain name, energyofvisibility.com. And I did it because I feel that there's not enough people that understand the importance of, like, the people that I'm seeing that are shutting down are the people that I need to be shining their light.
Yep.
And I want, and that scares me. I want, so what you're saying is so aligned with, I just did without even us having this conversation, because I believe, and maybe this came from our initial conversation, right? But I believe that this world is a mess. And I think what we need more than anything is more light, and more people with that light. Since they don't know what to do, they're shutting it down, and we need to do the opposite. We need to shine it more. We need people that are light workers and healers. We need them to be making more money so that they can be making choices that are more aligned with what they want to do, so that they can get their light out to more people. So had no intention of sharing this publicly anytime soon, but if you're listening to this, go to energyofvisibility.com and you can get the free training that I created yesterday. I just was called to do that and created it yesterday, and actually even created a visualization to go along with it. It's not even back yet. By the time this goes live, it will be, but it's with my editor right now. They'll literally help you just have the confidence to understand the ripple effect your light will have on the world if you just take that step towards that visibility, that we need, not only that light, but we need the ripple effect that your light will bring. So I didn't even know we were going there today, but that was great. That was awesome.
I love it. Talk about alignment. And that's the magic of what happens. See, there's an invitation, because there's an example of an invitation that showed up for you because you were open and ready for it. The universe is creating invitations for you. And the waiting for the invitation is, does it feel like an energetic invitation for me to step forward and share my wisdom, my advice, my guidance? That is a perfect example of an aligned invitation.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. So I feel like that's a wrap. Right? I feel like that's a wrap. We could go on forever, but I feel like that's a wrap. Candy, tell everybody a little bit more about you and the work you do, and how they can learn a little bit more about diving in with you, because the people that listen, most of the people that listen to the show are running businesses or do have careers that they want more out of. And while there's a lot of people talking about human design, there's not a lot of people talking about human design that also understand how it impacts business. So I think everybody should be reaching out to Candy. Tell us how they can do that.
Thank you so much. I would say there's two ways. That would be what makes the most sense. If you've done any work in human design and you're like, I've had a reading, I know my foundation, whatever, we can do more of a leadership map and pull out your leadership markers, your career chart, your success codex, which lays out these really cool 4 success paths. What I would say though, for most people, because even in that case, is to start with the foundational reading, even if you've done one. The way and Karen can attest to that, the way I do my readings are very different. You can go to Candy Barone, and it's CandyBarone. It's spelled Candy Barone. I don't make that stuff up. .com / and then it's HD-reading. And you can go out and schedule a reading with me. We can get started there. A lot of people then do deeper. I have a leadership bundle. I have different ways we can do leadership mapping. We can do nutrition mapping. We can do relationship mapping. It's just dependent upon what is going to be most helpful for you as you are, as I like to say, awakening, activating, and amplifying your unique leadership voice. There's a lot your energetic blueprint has to tell us. And so we can go in any direction you want to go from there. We start with the foundational reading first.
And honestly, it was great. It was great. I mean, you just heard one piece of alignment on it, but it's only been like 2 weeks, a week and a half, probably not even 2 weeks. And there's been a few things that have really been aligned. And, if you've listened this far, then I know you get this stuff, right? Because if this is stuff that you're like, oh God, right. You've already disconnected by now. You're not listening anymore. So if you're still listening, I can't even tell you the crazy amounts of alignment that have happened in my world. I'm going to just tell you, I'm going to tell one more quick little story, and then we're going to wrap. I'm going to tell them the woodpecker story, Candy.
Oh, nice.
So,
I love it.
Right when we're recording this, you may have remembered that we did a free training called PR Prestige. And I really was called, based on some things that I've learned in the past, but also in some of the work that I did with Candy, to reimagine it, to do it my way, to do what aligns with me, and to not do what I've done before and what we've done because we've been taught to do, and it just hasn't been working. So I've completely reimagined that. And I'm sitting at this exact spot in my office. If you're watching this on the video, the exact spot. And we are kind of wrapping it. And what happens at the end of the wrap? We're seeing who's joining us, who's enrolling in our program. Is this what I'm calling the empowered era marketing? Does it work? Is it working for us? Right. So as I'm sitting here doing this, and of course having a little imposter syndrome around all of this, right? Because I'm like, all right, we're making this up, and I'm being guided and told by people like Candy to do this, right? But it's new for me, so I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm sitting here and like, hold on, if you're watching this on the video, if you're not, go to my YouTube channel. Those are the windows right in my office, right next to me, like directly next to me. And I hear this banging. I'm like, what is this banging? It's driving me crazy for 2 days. And I'm like, just thinking, is there somebody doing yard work outside? Like, is it my neighbor behind me? Because this is a townhouse, maybe like behind this wall are other people. And then like comes swooping at the window is this bird. And I'm like, oh, it's a woodpecker. Do you know what I mean? It's a woodpecker. So now I'm like, at first I'm like, what do you do about woodpeckers? But then I'm like, oh, I got to find out. What is a woodpecker? Like, what does a woodpecker mean? And I just put the book away, but there's a book called Animal Speak. And I pulled it out, and the woodpecker energy basically is woodpeckers fly. I think they say they glide and then they go up, and then they glide and then they go up. So they basically march to a different drummer. They do things their way, different than any other bird does. And the sign is that you've built the foundation. Now go do it your way. And I'm like, all right. I'll take that sign. I will take that sign. By the way, the woodpecker's still here. I haven't seen him in the last hour we're doing this, but the woodpecker's still here. So now that he's given me his message, now I'm hoping that he finds a new home. But in the meantime, I just wanted to share that with you, in that I will tell you that I can't believe how hard it is for me to just be, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm learning how to just be and not be so focused on all the things, and just be focused on what serves me, and everything's falling into alignment. So that's why I want to do this. that's why I wanted to bring Candy into your life. And I highly recommend you check her out, follow her stuff, book yourself a reading. And most importantly, well, maybe not most importantly, but importantly also, if you loved this, or if you feel like you have an audience that loves this, take a quick screenshot right now, share this on your social media, tag me, tag Candy, because here's how that magnetic marketing, that empowered era marketing works. We want it to be magnetic, right? So when you're out there saying, you all need to listen to this conversation, right? What happens then is you're now bringing people into my life, which you're strengthening my magnet. You're doing the same thing with Candy and strengthening her magnet. But when we see that, we can comment on it, we can share it with our audiences, and we can strengthen your magnet, exactly. Right? And this is how we do this empowered era marketing that I keep talking about today. So I highly recommend you do that. If you love this, would love to see you subscribe to Good Girls Get Rich wherever you're listening. And because I've now told you it exists, check out energyofvisibility.com. It will put the link in the show notes. It is active and working right now, even though I'm still waiting for the edited version of the visualization to come back. And there's a few little tech pieces that aren't done with it yet, but it's done. So you totally need to check that out. Even if you don't feel like you need it, you might hear something in that. Like, it was meant to come out in this episode. So there's a reason you heard this episode. I think there might be a reason for you to check that Energy of Visibility training out. It's short. It's like 25 minute training. So Candy, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you.
I'm definitely going to dive in deeper with you, but for now, we're just going to move forward into what happens next. And again, thanks for being here.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. And it was my pleasure, for sure.